Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Simple Watch Reviews, where I review simple watches in a straightforward way. Today, still one of the best bang for your buck divers on AliExpress, the Steeldive Tuna. So the model number on this one is SD1975. As usual in this video, I'll include some indoor footage, some outdoor footage and some macro footage so you can really get a sense of what the watch looks like and you don't just have to take my word for it. One thing that's worth clearing up before we start is the difference between Steeldive and Addis dive. So you will notice that particularly with the older watches, Steeldive and Addis dive offer many of the same models. My understanding is that Steeldive used to make watches for Addis dive, so they're a company that's been going for a lot longer, and for a while they were an OEM manufacturer for Addis dive. That's not the case anymore. Addis dive is now a completely separate company. But yeah, you will find that their back catalogue of watches is quite similar. And looking on AliExpress just now, it looks like the Addis dive Tuna is actually going for less money than the Steeldive Tuna. So I found the Addis one for just over £60, which I think is about $80 US. The Steeldive, the cheapest I could find, it was £80, which is about $100 US. But do shop around. There are always a variety of different prices for things like this, and the different variations of the watch go for different prices as well. So I've got the standard black version, but you can also get it in blue, green or teal. So what do you get for your money? You get a hell of a lot of diver. This is what's called a shrouded diver. So it has a huge case, and that case partly surrounds the bezel. That's to stop it accidentally getting knocked when you're diving. This watch clearly is based on the Seiko Tuna. So Seiko have been making watches to this design for a number of years and do them in both quartz and automatic models. I've actually got one of the quartz tuners, so I may do a comparison video at some point in the future. And the watch is nicknamed the Tuna not because tuna swim in the sea, but because the dimensions of the case kind of mimic the dimensions of a can of tuna. It's not quite as big, but the ratios are very, very similar. So what are those dimensions? So this is a huge watch, and it's a watch that someone with a small 6 1/4 inch wrist like me would normally not go anywhere near, but actually it wears fine. And I'll show you that at the end of the video. So 47.5mm in diameter, a really big watch, as I say, because of that shroud that surrounds the bezel. It's also 47.5mm lug to lug, so the lugs of this watch are actually slightly recessed under the case. As you can see, the thickness is also substantial, 15mm, so a really big chunky watch, and it weighs a lot as well. So even sized for my relatively small wrists, it still weighs 170 grams. As you can see, the crown is at the 4 o'clock position. It's big and substantial and screws down very nicely on mine. The watch has a stated water resistance of 300 meters. I will certainly never be wearing it in any circumstances that require that level of water resistance, but it's nice to know that it's got it. The lug width for reference on this one is 22mm, so nicely in proportion with that big case. The case and the bracelet are both 316L stainless steel. So what else do you get with this watch aside from a lot of stainless steel? Well, you also get the Seiko NH35 hacking and hand winding movement inside, and you get a domed sapphire crystal. So you are getting a lot of watch for your money here. And if that wasn't enough, you also get a loom ceramic bezel insert. Finish wise, this has a very fine brush all over the case, bracelet and shroud. The only exception to that is the sides of the bracelet, which are polished. The shroud, as you can see, also has these kind of bolts screwed into it which hold it to the case. The dial is a flat black with nice big loom markings on it that lay out very much in the Seiko style, as are the hands. Printing wise on the dial, you get the Steeldive logo just under the 12, and then Marine Engineer automatic 300 meters above the 6. I personally quite like the dial layout on this, aside from the Steeldive logo, which is always a bit divisive, isn't it? You also get a framed date window at 3 o'clock. And I have to say, the loom on this dial and hands is very, very good indeed. C3, well applied, glows very, very nicely. Weirdly, they've decided to put BGW9 loom on the bezel insert rather than C3. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of mixing different loom styles, but I guess at least you're getting decent loom. On the dial at least, the loom on the bezel isn't quite as bright. Action wise though, the bezel is great, really, really solid on mine, although it doesn't quite line up, which I guess is at least in keeping with Seiko. The bracelet is probably the weakest part of the watch, on mine at least. So it's a 3-link style bracelet with a pressed clasp with just 3 levels of micro adjust. On a watch as heavy as this, you really want as much micro adjust as possible, in my opinion, so you can make sure you really get a good fit. Steeldive do also sell this with an engineer style bracelet, so I'm not sure if that's a bit better. Fortunately though, the 22mm lug width means it's easy to chuck this on rubber or a NATO, although of course a NATO strap will make it even thicker. The crystal on this is lovely. It's definitely not double dome, so you are getting quite a lot of distortion at the edges, but I personally quite like that, and it's very, very clear as well. I promised earlier I'd show you what it looks like on my 6 1/4 inch wrist, so here you are. Personally, I think it looks really good. It wears far better than I would expect such a huge watch to wear, and I really enjoy wearing it too. It's nice to wear a watch with such distinctive looks. It really doesn't look like any other divers out there, apart of course from Seiko tuners. And because the price is so low, it's a great way to try out a big watch if, like me, you've got a smaller wrist. So those are my thoughts on the Steeldive Tuna. I think it's a pretty cracking watch and definitely fantastic value for money. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and please also consider subscribing for more simple watch reviews.